straight away joining us is Brian, as always.
Hello,
Brian, say hello.
Hello, Mick. Hello, Mick. Hello, folks.
This is Radio Espial Insider. This is our early December edition. I don't know whether we're going to be doing another edition later this month, because we will hope to have a timeline coming up soon. This Insider is a little bit different to previous Insiders, where we normally focus on maybe one or two cases. For this Radio Insider edition, we're going to focus on December the 3rd. 3rd. That's as we record Friday. On Wednesday this week, the December 2025 Missing Day Ireland event was held. You might be asking, well, it's self-explanatory, but just for the record, National Missing Persons Day takes place on the first Wednesday in December every year. I think it's been going about 10 years. Brian was actually at the event last year. This All-Ireland Day of commemoration takes place, provides an opportunity for family members and friends of missing persons to remember their loved ones and to appeal to the public for any information that might be of assistance to An Garda Síochána. The missing persons ceremony, as I say, took place. There was actually a number of speakers. One of them we've held over for maybe a special edition later this month. You are going to hear in this upcoming insert 4 cases, 4 families, and their 4 experiences of missing people. One of those 4 cases, the person was found. It's actually the last case.
He was in last year's event as well. His father spoke at last year's event. And they hadn't found him at that stage, and they found him earlier. So it was interesting, because we heard from Daire Lynch's father last year, and he came back this year on, well, mixed emotions for him. His son was found, but perhaps not in the events he wanted. There are 4 people. Luke Price is a person that we haven't spoken about before. Columba McVeigh, we certainly have. Jimmy O'Neill, around this time last year. Frank, again, also a person who spoke at the event last year. And as I say, Daire Lynch. They are the 4 people and the cases you're going to hear about in this next segment, and you're going to hear from their family representatives. Ronan Lynch is the dad.
Ronan Lynch is the dad. Now, everyone, I know maybe some of you are here just to hear the monthly anniversaries, and when we go to our community feedback comments, these people, please understand, they are not professional speakers. They are family members. Also, during this event, which is supported incidentally by the Irish Department of Justice and An Garda Síochána, this year, and it is a general criticism, I felt that the quality of the live stream of this event was really poor, and we had to do an awful lot of repair work on the audio that you're going to see. Visual work wasn't a problem, but on the audio, what I will say is, please, people, it's about 20 to 25 minutes. Don't just skip through it and hurry through it. Give these 4 family members the time that they deserve to explain their experiences of having a loved one who is missing. Okay? That's all I ask. If I ask nothing more this year of you in any of the episodes and any of the timelines, I would ask you just to do that. Listen to these relatives just for the next 20 minutes. Give them the decency of your time for the next 20-25 minutes and listen to their stories and their experiences. You might actually learn something.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Pauline Price. Almost 11 months ago, my world turned upside down. But the muffled words, Mum, Luke's gone missing. Words that all parents dread and pray they'll never hear. And yet, here we all are remembering our missing loved ones together on National Missing Persons Day 2025, firm in the knowledge that our story isn't unique. Almost 28 years ago, Luke Gabriel Price joined us 3 weeks early, just in time for his first Christmas. He even came home on Christmas Eve, and honestly, he's the best present ever. In the immortal words of his brother, without him there is no Christmas. This year's series of firsts will be especially difficult. His birthday, Christmas, the anniversary of his disappearance, the day he'd planned to come home. A storm. Dave's birthday, Luke's planned return to work, and so it goes on. It's going to be an emotional couple of months. In the beginning it was hard. Everybody was searching Limerick City, while I sat alone with my thoughts, waiting for him to walk in, and asked, what's all the fuss about? It was a time fraught with expectation, imagining the worst and hoping for the best. Around that time, there were sightings reported in Portlaoise and locally. I left the house for the first time in 3 weeks. I packed up Luke's room, dealt with serious family health issues, coordinated local searches, liaised with Gardaí, viewed with CCTV, identified and excluded doppelgangers, and searched his laptop for clues. Suddenly I went from the panicked, frozen emotion of isolation to a life more purposeful. After a crime call in February brought a flurry of reported sightings, none of which amounted to anything, apart from the consumption of time, energy and limited resources. Highs were rapidly followed by anticlimactic lows, family disagreements and emotional exhaustion. People's reluctance to go through official channels never ceases to astound me, and it has caused us all immense distress. My eldest son, Nathan, and his best mate began organising the Tullamore Phoenix Metal Festival in aid of the National Missing Persons Helpline and the Look for Luke campaign. I put my energies into raising spot prizes, sponsorship and donations. It was a great success. It was well attended by metalheads from all around the country, and it was fun. It was one of the best things that's happened to us since Luke's disappearance. Reminiscent of the days when half the world would descend upon us and party like there was no tomorrow. It was overwhelming. It was cathartic. Luke would have loved it. And after months of planning and execution, just like that, it was over. And that's when the magnitude of our loss finally hit me. I'd always known it would. Once I finally had time to myself to reflect. A month after he left his partner's apartment, his last known movements were confirmed by CCTV. There were no further sightings, just grainy footage of a dark shape corresponding with the timing and the assumed direction of travel. To date, the Look for Luke campaign remains active. Many of our posters were removed, some by the storm, others vandalised, and yet more because of the assumption that he's been found. I continue to give interviews on local and national radio stations and newspapers and assist Gardaí with their inquiries. I'm angry. I'm so angry at the situation. That we didn't realise that this would happen and that we couldn't prevent it. I'm angry that he's missing. I'm so very angry at certain individuals who weren't being as helpful to the Gardaí as they could have been. And that because of them we couldn't get the dogs out and his scent was lost. I'm angry at the idiotic suggestions. Yes, I'm angry. I'm bloody angry. And I want to hug Luke to death, and then I want to box the bloody head off him for putting us through this. I've even bargained with God. Not that it's done much good, but I've done it. I made an offering in a shrine dedicated to St Anthony when we were in Madeira. The result? Yet more loss. And I thought he was supposed to help us find things, not lose them. But I realise now that that was denial. So after a year of cyclical denial and anger, acceptance, bargaining in undefinable quantities, and in an absolute state of disorder, I'm finally depressed. Part of me believes that Luke will never come home, and that if he does, it won't be him. I'm sad, because we will never be the same again. I'm sad that I couldn't contact him with the news that 1 year in, I'm in good shape. But most of all, I'm just sad because I miss him. I'll be okay though. I'm concentrating on self-care because that's the essence of caring for others. I'll climb out of it, but I may never experience acceptance in a true sense. I'll probably never understand, even if I have answers. And without one, it's almost certain that I'll never have the other. In a nutshell, that's ambiguous loss. I've been provided with counselling from the very beginning by a wonderful lady called Mary. I have good friends. I have family. I have our local cancer support services and the reflexology, which has helped me get in touch with my emotions. And I have tools. Now I just need to learn how to combine them in the hopes of finding something resembling a peaceful existence. I don't need impolite inquiries from people I have no connection with, or idiotic suggestions and inappropriate expressions of opinions. Compassion and a little cooperation are all that I ask. Maybe, if the gods are smiling upon us one day, we'll have news.
Thank you all for coming. I just want to tell you about the story of our Columba. My name's Oliver McVeigh. My brother Columba is one of the disappeared of the Troubles. I'm from a quiet town in County Tyrone called Donegal. Columba was my big brother, and I was 14 when he disappeared. When he disappeared, it didn't really register with me at all. He could have been in England, he could have been in America, he could have been in Dublin, he could have been anywhere. My mother actually thought that he'd gone somewhere else. But this year, it's his 50th anniversary, which we had a few weeks ago. Imagine, 50 years, a long, long time. And the first time I really registered with me that Columba was dead was one day when I lifted a brick, as I always did in brick shops, mainly about the Troubles. There was a brick called the Dirty War. And I happened to flick through it, always go to the index. And this time I went to the index, and my brother's name was at the back of it, in the index. It was about 1995 or so at the time. And I was floored. My brother's name was in this book. Sort of half expecting it, but not expecting it. He used to have been discussed as disappeared, murdered, and secretly buried. Even though the piece in the book is inaccurate, the area is inaccurate. I believed what was written was true. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. How to tell my mother and my father. I was worried about how they would handle this news. My primary concern was always my mum and dad. I always took the lead from how they were feeling. But a number of weeks later, the book was serialised in a local paper, and my mum read it. I did my best to calm her down and tell her to not believe everything she read in the book, because, pen and paper can do whatever. Even though knowingly inside myself I had a fair idea it was true in some respect. In 1998, after coming home from Mass, there was a car sitting at a cul-de-sac outside my house. Palm Sunday, 1998, and a Republican got out of it and come up to the door, knocked the door, and read a prepared statement telling me my boy Columba had been disappeared by his organisation, and they were taking responsibility for his murder, and would be making a statement to the press the following day. So my only thought at the time was, how was I going to explain this to my mother? I had no idea how I was going to do it. I was going to compose myself to do this. I had no idea, no words for going, what were going to come out of my mouth. I had no idea what I was going through. I had no idea if I was going to get through it. But when I went, I was trying to calm myself down at this time. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. To face my mother. And it hit me how important it was, because if I didn't tell her, the news was going to come out in the morning. And the enormity of it would be vast. I struggled to control my emotions, but I knew I had to protect her. My mom began to cry. She was devastated. She was also disgusted that they hadn't come to see her directly, and they had come through me. And to be perfectly honest, the word she said was, the bastards didn't have the balls to come to me. It became my job to protect them at all costs. And we had a local priest, Father Hall, who was very good to us, who would be well known, he's dead now, and a local minister who was involved with WAVE, who supported us and gave my mother great support. When Columba was taken away and disappeared, I was robbed of a big brother. I looked up to him, I missed him. Going to the football field with him, I went and watched him play. I missed sometime that he would come home in these crazy cars. He'd appear in, he had a great relationship with my mother, and I remember their relationship with a great smile. He always had a smile on his face. He was just a devilish cub. He had a part of me, like an image of him coming home from work in Finley's, which was a local cement factory, covered head to head in concrete. I used to go up and put Father to collect them. He'd then come home and get washed, big smile on his face, and he'd go out, to his car, he'd maybe bought one of those classic Jags, and he'd get out into it. And stories like that just remember my big well, it was fun. I don't worry so much about Columba, strange as that sounds. I firmly believe he's in heaven. What broke me was the impact it had on my mother. If I'm going to get emotional at any point in the story, it would be now, when I remember thinking about my mother. I idolized her. I was the youngest, the one who stayed at home and looked after her. Everything I did was for her. Not only was my mother dealing with raising her son, but she also was dealing with my father for not being well. She didn't know people telling her stuff. After he was identified as one of the disappeared and the searches for him started, she'd have been down at the dig, always in the one location in Bragg Bog, and she'd go to the digger men, brought them down Guinness, cigarettes, chocolates, sandwiches, tea, everything, even though they had lots of that stuff anyway. But she never stopped thanking them or looking after them. Can you imagine that you lose your son and nobody talks to you about it? Nobody. Because Columba was murdered by my own community, this created a layer of silence. That was heavy to bear because this name was never mentioned. His name was never mentioned. The word disappeared is very final. I'm aware today here people are here on the pretense of missing. Well, with missing, there is a possibility of finding him alive or whatever, but the word disappeared is very final. You know he's dead. If you're missing, it feels and sounds different. I always thought Columba was missing or away somewhere, but after the statement in 98, it became final. He was one who disappeared. I suppose I feel different to a lot of people here. I know my brother's dead. I know he's buried in Bragg Bog in County Monaghan. We've just in our sixth dig, our sixth search, we've dug 26 acres, which is a vast amount of ground. I sympathise with those who have no information. And people here have no information. But we are lucky enough we have some information, but not the right information. And I still don't know, one way or another, the ambiguity is going for me. I appreciate so much the digger men and the forensic team who work hard at the digs to help us to put a full stop at the end of the sentence. I also thank the Department of Justice for their financial support and other support for keeping the digs alive with the remaining people here disappeared. There are people who are lost now. The fun and the crack, they are all lost. Because when his name is mentioned, all we remember is that he has disappeared. But I remember them. They are part of me. I admire more than anyone else the story of Bragg Bog as a horrible, barren, cold, desolate place. For these days are working painstakingly every day in all ways. I have huge gratitude to what they contribute to do to help bring me home. I will be the happiest man in Tyrone if Columba's found. There's people still out there can give information. In fact, there's a couple of individuals who I think, if this dig doesn't come to any sort of fruition, I possibly will be doorstepping them. And I don't care if they know or not. Finding my brother's body would give me so much fulfillment. My mother's is still alive in my whole demeanour. My strength all comes from her. I promised her that I would continue to do the work that she had started. And just like my mother, I will never give up. My mother should be a statistic of the troubles. as she died of a major stroke after a number of years of been searching. And I firmly believe that was caused by the trauma inflicted in her brain and on her. And I just want to fulfil the promise to her to lay my brother Columba to rest. Thank you for listening.
My name is Frank O'Neill. I'm Dunmore East, County Waterford, and formerly of 17 Leamy Street. My brother Jimmy O'Neill, I like to emphasise, he was always known as Jimmy. The James comes in, James Malachy, which is Christian names. My brother went missing, where my brother Jimmy O'Neill went missing from home on the 15th of December 1947, age 16. May I emphasise, a child from the state. I was only 5 years old when Jimmy went missing, 10 days before Christmas, 1947. Where would a 16-year-old go? My brother worked as a general messenger operative in an establishment called Clyde Shipping on the quay in Waterford. A shipping company, a shipping cargo establishment that operated out of Waterford to Liverpool. We as a family always feared that Jimmy stowed on the ship that sailed to Liverpool on the 15th of December 1947, age 16, never to this day located or heard from. It was the start of a downhill turn by my parents' health. The disappearance of my missing brother involved a detective Garda who was obviously investigating the missing of a postal order. I know lots of people may not know what the postal order consisted of, in the region of the value of maybe over £1 or £1. On a little more, it went missing from the office of the Clyde Shipping. The detective Garda carried out his function in an abusive manner. There was no evidence that my brother was the guilty culprit, namely Jimmy O'Neill. The said same detective Garda was forcibly pushing himself in the front entrance of 17 Leamy Street, where I was born and lived and Jimmy lived, when he was confronted by my eldest brother Jack, who was 20 years old at the time. Words were exchanged and the detective left. My brother wrote a letter to my mother, my late mother, of his disappearance. This is the sequence of the letter, in pencil. A very hard one thing to describe. In the contents of the letter, he was 16, and as I said again, he was a child of the state. He said, "Dear Mama, don't keep my dinner hot for me. I drown myself, Jimmy." Now, I never realised after. You'd think positively of what the sequence consisted of. Also to tell Mr. Jones, that was his employer or his boss, to get a new messenger.
So good afternoon, distinguished guests, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to be here. So my job here is to introduce this short video, which you're about to watch. And as it was said, it concerns our eldest son, Dara. Dara, he loved hunting for wildlife. He worked as a hunt coordinator both in America and in Ireland, and his job was to take groups of people on hunting trips in both Ireland and in America. Unfortunately and sadly, he took his own life in December 2021. So he took the place where he took his life was a state mountain park in West Texas, Davis Mountain Park. It's a massive park, and the terrain is very difficult. We were actually told that we were advised against going out and searching for them ourselves, so we had to rely on the local search teams to locate Dara's body. So they carried out an initial search after he'd been reported missing, and unfortunately they didn't find his body at that time. So a number of years passed by, and luckily, or maybe miraculously, In January of this year, Sergeant Barry O'Connor from Ashburn Station called us to say that they had an update. And they'd actually, a team that had been set up in June of 2024. Now this was set up as they reopened cold cases from time to time. And this team was set up and managed by Malcolm White, and we'll hear from Malcolm now in a minute. And this team, the team were actually successful in locating Dara's remains. And he was brought home just a few months ago with thanks to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust. They were very helpful in the repatriation process. So great thanks to Kevin Bell and his team, or Colin Bell and his team. Now the person speaking in the video is, as you've heard, his name is Malcolm White. And the reason why this video came to be was Dermot Brown of the Missing Persons Helpline was asked to provide a number of speakers, and he reached out to me, and I thought that if Malcolm was willing to do this, it would be a nice way to, and it would be a comforting video for some people who are still missing their loved ones, because this video proves that, the teams, they're always out there, they'll continue looking for your loved ones and not to give up hope. So without further ado, I will introduce you now to Malcolm. This is Malcolm, this is the video.
And I'm at Texas Ranger Station in Alpine, out in far west Texas. One of our duties as Rangers is to assist in missing persons investigations, especially those that have gone cold without any leads. In December of 2021, Daire Lynch went missing in the Davis Mountain State Park, leaving most of his personal property behind. An extensive search of the park was performed at the time by volunteers and law enforcement without any success. The case stayed cold until late 2023, when the Texas State Park Police requested my assistance with the investigation. Utilizing some of the last known photos that Daire sent to his loved ones, maps of the area, and other investigative techniques, we developed a plan to search for any trace of Daire or where he might have gone. In June of 2024, a large search party made up of Texas Rangers, special operators, volunteers, and cowboys descended on the Davis Mountains to search for Daire. Some searchers were on horseback, some were on ATVs, and some were utilizing drones to cover more ground. This area is incredibly rugged, and some places can only be reached by helicopter. During the search, one of our special operators located human remains in a dry gully on private property near where Daire was last believed to be. We recovered those remains, an autopsy was performed, and DNA samples were submitted for comparison. In January of 2025, we received confirmation via DNA analysis that the person we had found was indeed Daire Lynch. Though the outcome was tragic, I was relieved that I could provide any measure of closure to Daire's loved ones. Lastly, I would like to encourage all those who are still seeking their lost loved ones. Around the world, there are people like me still searching for those who are lost and seeking to bring them home. My prayers are with you and your families. God bless.
That I know that was sometimes difficult viewing to hear all those relatives, but it was an experience, and it's what those relatives and families have to go through. For our next section, anniversaries, and these are our December anniversaries. You may have been hearing an awful lot of the Sandra Collins case. Again, please people, timelines, descriptions, everything else needed, links in the description under this video. Sandra Collins, the 4th of December. There was a Garda appeal this week. Just very briefly, Sandra Collins was 28 years old when she went missing from Killala, County Mayo, Ireland on Monday the 4th of December 2000. She was the eldest of 6 children in her family. She was born to Eleanor and Francie, who also had James and Bridie together. The family experienced their own early tragedies. Sandra left her aunt's home at 7:30 p.m. to buy groceries, calling in on their elderly neighbour William Johnson to see if he needed anything from the shop. She left. She went to Biron's shop. Around 11:15 was the last reported sighting at the Country Kitchen chip shop on George Street, Killala, buying some chips. And that pretty much is it when she disappeared. Now, there are an awful lot of leads in this case. This case is one, I think, that Brian, I think we're this case is a whisper away from getting over the line.
Yeah, it's a classic, like, it's kind of an open secret as to what happened there, really. And I think if if they can work it through the right way this time, like, they'll get the answers and get the results. Yeah,
hopefully. Okay, now our next case, we're moving now on the anniversary to the 7th of December. This is Grace Livingstone. Grace, if you remember this case, again, we've done the full timeline. I'm not going to... on not too long ago. Grace Livingstone, she was 56-year-old Irish mother and housewife living in Malahide, Dublin. And she was murdered in her own bedroom in brutal circumstances. With a gunshot wound. Again, I'm not going to go into case details. You can find the case details in the description. Her killer has never been identified, and no motive has ever been determined despite extensive re-examinations of the case. And it remains one of the most prominent Irish cold case murders of the 1990s.
Very mysterious case. Yeah. Very mysterious case, and kind of strange stuff going on at the time. Several witness reports, but just very, very hard to tie it all together into something or move the investigation on. And then all the shenanigans going on then against the husband, all of that stuff. Then that horrible stuff that went on there as well. So whoever the killer was must have been delighted with all, because it definitely deflected away from trying to get to the bottom of what happened to Mrs. Livingstone.
We move to the 8th of December for our next anniversary. I hardly need to mention the name when I say the 8th of December, Trevor Deely. The 8th of December, of course, Irishman Trevor Deely disappeared in Dublin. He'd been walking home around 4 a.m. from his office Christmas party, like many people at this time of the year, and I needed to go to the bank where he worked for an umbrella as well. It was a really poor evening. He was seen on security camera at the bank where he worked, and in front of the bank he passed as he headed home on foot. But there was also a man captured clad in dark clothing who was ultimately identified and removed from the case. Trevor,
there was two men really. There was the guy outside the bank,
and then the guy following him, and then they realised it wasn't the same person.
I mean, which we discussed it before, but I mean, I never thought they looked like the same person. But we discussed that in another video there. I never thought they looked like the same. The guy outside the other place looked more stocky. The other fella looked more tall. So like they didn't. I don't know why that was kind of taken as fact. But either way, I mean, that'd be 25 years ago in a couple of days. And I remember this because I moved to Dublin around that time, shortly before that, and I think we'd our Christmas party around the same time that time. So it could have been anybody there. Very sad case, and his father passed away earlier this year as well.
That's
finding out.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple of those developments, but still nowhere close to solving it. So we sincerely hope that something maybe comes up in the net. And again, these are our anniversaries. And I have no doubt, even as we record here on the 5th of December, as these anniversaries come up, I have no doubt you will start to hear about these cases popping back up in the media, but we're giving you a heads up on them. Now, another case, PHILOMENA LYONS. The 15th of December 2001, Sister PHILOMENA was born in Mallow, County Cork in 1932. She spent 6 years in New Jersey in the United States. Returning to Ireland, she taught for a period of time in national schools. She was looking forward to celebrating Christmas in another convent with friends, and shortly after breakfast, in very jovial mood, Sister PHILOMENA was accompanied to the bus by another nun, and after that she disappeared.
Sister Philomena never boarded her bus to Dublin at 8:30 a.m. Sadly, her body was discovered close to the convent grounds earlier that evening, just after 5 p.m, by a member of the Irish Police Force, alerted by staff members and friends of Philomena when they became increasingly concerned for her welfare. Again, if you want to know more about that case, description please. We're not here to go into details on thoroughly on cases.
She was purely in the wrong place, wrong time, because the guy had his eye on another young woman. She disappeared, and then he kind of targeted her, and he didn't serve that long. From what I read, he served less than 10 years. And this was a vicious, brutal murder. That's it anyway. So there's a feature there. The link will be there, folks.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Sister Philomena.
Jimmy. James Malachy, Jimmy O'Neill. Again, same day, 15th of December 1947. Again, I'm not going to go into this. You have already heard a little piece, a very short piece from Frank O'Neill, Jimmy's younger brother. He disappeared age 16 from Waterford City 77 years ago. Believe maybe he boarded a ship, wrote that poignant note to his mother. We showed it on screen when Frank was speaking. Ma'am, they're trying to stitch me up for this theft in the shipping company. I didn't do it. I've got to get out of town, and they feared he did the worst, or he just laid bare on a ship and just never returned home. And for 77 years that family have never had respite or answers. Brian, and you want to say that?
Very tragic. I mean, he was a young fella, 16, and he was
to be landed with that.
I think there was that cop. There was a cop who was intimidating him. I'd say he frightened the BJs out of him, and he just took off and he never returned. I mean, I got speculation, I know, but I often thought about, that was back in the days of hanging as well. I often thought, did he threaten or something like that either as well? And either way, anyway, poor Jimmy took off, very frightened, and there was the whole family impact as well, because his father and brothers worked in the same company as well. So if he was, if they trumped something up against him, it would have affected the entire family as well. So very, very sad, tragic case.
Marie Kilmartin, age 35, of Ballad, County Laois, 16th of December 1993. She attended a work due at a local daycare nursing home for the Portlaoise Area Social Services Pass at 11 a.m. on the 16th of December 1993. 3:45 p.m. Her two colleagues dropped her back home. After that, the circumstances of her movements are not widely known. She apparently got a phone call to the house, headed out possibly to meet someone, and essentially after that we have no idea what happened to her. And then months later her body was found, and until now we still have no actual answers as to who killed her and what happened. Brian, again, any comments?
There's a couple of videos on this, folks, and a couple of updates.
We've done an awful lot of coverage on this case, including Anya, her daughter.
Exactly, and this conflicts with, there was an official narrative there for 30 years, and if you look into that there, folks, Anya's own words there will let you know there that this is the reality of what she believes happened, is a million miles away from what has been presented by media and Gardaí is very different story as to what actually has gone on. And we have another case of blame the local head the ball as well. He wasn't involved, and Anya spoke to him to his family directly as well. So she's done her homework on this one.
The 20th of December 2011. We actually, hopefully before Christmas, I'm gonna have a timeline on this, and it's a case we had logged for quite a while. It's about one of the last cases we had logged originally from about 2 or 3 years ago that we never quite got to. It's the case of Monica Reardon. And Monica was, I know you heard from the speakers in the missing persons event, but Monica's case was also one of the main highlighted cases. She was 39, from Navan, County Meath, last seen in the Hall Street area of Dublin around 11 a.m. On that Tuesday. Gardaí investigating the baffling case of Monica Reardon, disappeared the previous week before Christmas, revealed that they have a confirmed sighting when she was disorientated and in a confused state. Later that day, there were messages and communications between her and the boyfriend that morning that led into the early afternoon, but the exact circumstances as to what happened there, I'm not going to go into it any further. It's coming up in our next timeline. Brian?
Yeah, so check that out, folks. That'll be coming up in due course soon as well. Very sad, very tragic case.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and we still don't have any answers. Phyllis Murphy, the 22nd of December 1979. This was a very shocking murder. Not unlike Sister Philomena's case. 23-year-old Phyllis Murphy remained a cold case for 2 decades after she vanished again Christmas 79 while waiting for a bus in Newbridge, County Kildare. Her body was discovered a month later in a remote location at Turlock Hill, Wicklow, and despite extensive Garda investigations, no suspect was identified. Again, it was a cold case for a long time. Yeah. You want to hear more about how that case developed and what the outcome was, again, description, and you can go into it. Yeah. Marilyn Ryan, 22nd of December 1995, an Irish woman murdered at the age of 41 after being attacked on the way home from a work Christmas party in the early hours of the 22nd of December 1995. Her killer was the first in Ireland to be caught using DNA testing. Again, historic case because of the reasons and the DNA testing that went into that case to prove the conviction. Again, description if you want to hear more details about that case. Sophie Toscan Du Plantier, 39-year-old French woman, killed outside her home at Tromore, Goleen, County Cork, Ireland, on the night of the 23rd of December 1996. Her badly beaten body, still dressed in white nightwear and outdoor boots, was discovered by a neighbour the following morning close to the entrance gate of her holiday property home. She was originally from France. I'm not going into any more of the... I think you all are familiar with the case. If you want to deep dive into the case, Ian Bailey, the whole stuff around that case, that quagmire, okay, good luck to you. It's in the description. Patricia Doherty, 23rd of December 1991. She was a prison officer at Mountjoy Prison in Dublin, Ireland. Returned home to Tallaght just before 9 p.m. on the evening of the 23rd of December, following a busy day of Christmas shopping, but that evening she headed back out. She disappeared supposedly to buy I think it was a couple of Santa hats for her 2 young kids. She was due to appear back at work on Christmas Eve. Never turned up. Last seen at the Old Bond Shopping Centre in Tallaght, that's next to the old Bridget Burke's pub. Her husband eventually alerted police a couple of days later, on the 21st of June, 6 months after her disappearance. Her body was found in the Dublin Wicklow Mountains in the featherbeds. Again, if you want to know more about that case, she's often connected to that Vanishing Triangle series of cases. Again, description. Brian, like last month, what is it about November and December? There's a hell of a lot of cases.
I mean, it's just a case. Is it a case that there's more cover of darkness or something, or what? Like, it's kind of
I don't know. It struck me when we started doing Insider a few months back, and we started the anniversary feature. We were like doing maybe 3-4 cases, mentioning it in a month.
It's about 10 then, like, yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly it's jumped, and it's not because we've built the database for it. It's literally because we just noticed a very particular rise in the number of anniversary cases in the months of October, November, December. We'll see how it goes in January. Maybe it goes down. I don't know. Although I don't think so. I'm already thinking of 3 or 4 cases.
I know there's a few. There's a good story. I mean, we'll just say. I think the main thing to say is that think about the victims here, folks. It's the for example, it's the Sophie Toscan Du Plantier case, not the Ian Bailey case. And so on. We got to think about the victims here, and rest in peace to those who've been. Had something nefarious happen to them, and any answers, we hope the families and the loved ones get answers. In their lifetimes.
Do you want to take us away with the community feedback this month, Brian?
We'll do, Mick. We don't have not a massive amount of traffic in the feedback there, folks, but we've got a few items here anyway, so we'll just go through them there. Now, first of all, just the Elisa Lam case that Mick that we presented there last week, so just had some good feedback on that there, some nice comments on that there, so just a few there. Kadiro V. Bilgent, who's been on the channel for a while there now, said, haven't heard this tragedy spoken of so respectfully today. Thanks for another great episode. So thanks, Kadiro, for your comment there and your kind words. Mary KP99EP1W. So Mary, again, a stalwart of the channel, as said, thanks, Mick and Brian. Again, you give a very clear view of Elisa as a person, who she was and how she left this world. The neglect and frenzy of the media I consider as cruel. That Elisa was left alone, not to disturb others, was the biggest mistake made. Elisa's word was real to her. Rest in peace, Elisa. Very thoughtful words there from Mary as well. So thanks very much, Mary. And she said, great presentation, Mick and Brian, showing clear maps of the hotel and describing its history, and above all, beautiful portrait of Elisa. And it is a beautiful portrait there. So good luck, Mick, getting that up there. Mick responded with, thank you so much for your kind and supportive words. As with Elisa's case, we do our best to keep the person front and centre, and that's what we aim for here, folks, as well. So Shell 2990 said, first time I've heard anyone give her full Cantonese name. Just started listening, but know this will be well done, thanks. And Mick thanked her there as well. And so we try to be thorough, respectful, and factual in the timelines. Mike 75575, another guy who's been a good support on the channel there, and he said, excellent view with much appreciated background to a tragic case. I do appreciate the inclusion of international cases. As far as misinformation and BS goes, unfortunately, it is rewarded more than truth as consumers gravitate towards perceived crime, and these creative grifters have no problem in vilifying innocent people with false narratives. Thanks again for keeping it real. So I think that was a good comment from Mike there, and true there, and some of the stuff that goes on. And thanks as well to Elizabeth Malone for hyping the video as well. She's also been supportive there on the channel. So thanks, folks, for all the comments on Elisa Lam. Mick, did you want to make any comment there?
No. Other than we can't go into it, but we know the reason why our viewership has been slightly down, and maybe we'll talk about that later in my final address with the channel. So yeah, we were very happy with the Elisa Lam presentation we put together, but we won't pretend we were a little disappointed. Nothing to do with our subscribers and our viewers, but we were a little disappointed for other reasons around why that video didn't do as well as we expected.
Now we'll just move on there. Episode 74, what really happened to Claudia Lawrence. Now, Claudia Lawrence was the chef from York who disappeared mysteriously from was last seen near her home there, or on the way from work to home. She worked in York, she lived in York. So we have come from Urban Satirist. He said, one other point of interest, you mentioned she worked at the Goodry College. She worked at the Roger Kirk Centre, which was on Campus West. They're both part of the University of York, but are separate entities. Goodrich College is one of the university's colleges, while the Roger Kirk Centre is a separate building on campus that hosts a range of activities. Goodrich College is in Campus East. So, yeah, thanks for the correction there, Urban Satirist. I think some of the confusion, the Goodrich College's canteen closed and the Roger Kirk one replaced that there. So I think that was it. So thanks for the correction there. Okay, appreciate that. Now, just to the specifics of the case, Jenny Connor said, not judging, but is there a chance Claudia was pregnant? That would be more convenient for a married man than just an affair. I hope her loved ones can get justice. And yeah, Mick responded, I guess that can't be ruled out. And another one, Cake IS, said, I've read and watched a lot about Claudia's case and have often wondered this, and you're the first person I've seen has mentioned it. I wonder if she told somebody that triggered an extreme reaction, perhaps because of the fear of the consequences of his life. So again, can't be ruled out. I think until they find Claudia's remains, they won't be able to clarify any of that. It's not known if she confided in any of her friends or the police or anything, but that hasn't, there's been no comment on that from anyone close to the case.
And I know it's a valid point. I know it's a sensitive subject, but it's a fair and valid thing to raise. And we hadn't thought of it, and that's why we respect constructive comments that do put forward. Did anybody think of So and we've never a problem dealing with sensitive issues on this channel if they're put forward in a constructive and positive manner
and respectful fashion.
And respectfully,
because Jenny Connor did say at the end, I hope her loved ones can get justice. So that's the point there. But so valid point. We don't know, and I don't think anyway. I think it would have been a knee-jerk reaction. She wouldn't have been the type to go blackmailing somebody or anything like that. But I mean, if it did happen, so I think it was. It's a valid point. We just don't know speculation-wise or anything. So that's that part. Now, I think unfortunately the next comment is one about it's kind of what we were talking about in the lead-in, and unfortunately we had this comment on the channel here. Now, again, people are typing their opinions here now, but I think this one kind of throws something out there. Another commenter goes in, and then we get the media style stuff. Then the first comment was from PM Cine. It was a premeditated, calculated murder. She was living a high-risk life and she had lots of foes. And then someone else, Morgan Lafee, comes back and goes, I'm curious what was high-risk life. And then
she was in their relationship.
PM Cine says, addressed the person, Morgan Lafee directly. She was in a relationship with 9 or 10 men at the same time, and most of them are married men! ! So we're back to the kind of the.
We know where this comment was going, and and wanted to lead every commenter after that.
Yeah,
so
it's a bait, really, and
it's a bait comment.
Yeah,
we knew that, and we left it.
Yeah.
As an example, this is not the kind of thing.
No, it's not.
We respect on the channel.
And I just want to address that a bit there now. I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about in relation to some of the media stuff that we, try to, boil things down objectively. I think this was baiting here. And let's face it, like high risk life, this wasn't Vegas, downtown Vegas or Naples or someplace. She wasn't selling drugs out the back of her car in the car park of the Nag's Head, or she wasn't running protection rackets or, doing stuff like that. This is, we got to put a bit of perspective on this here now. This was a suburb in York, right? These were normal people. It was very mundane, normal set up there. This was a 35-year-old woman who worked as a chef. She liked being involved in horses in her spare time. She had a vibrant social life there. She was dating and so on, and fair enough. And she had the local nearby. She did have relationships and so on and all that, and we addressed that in the video. However, let's be objective here now, because you look at, and as I said in the video, Claudia wasn't monogamous, so what? Neither were some of the other people she was involved with, right? And I think it's fair to say she probably didn't realise whatever danger she was in. That's fair comment as well. But we have this business here now. It's not like, I just want to finish what I'm saying there, Mick. Sorry, I just want to finish what I'm saying. I think she's the only person roughly over the couple of years that I know of that went missing in mysterious circumstances and presumed murdered around there, and in that locality that locality. So I think and she wasn't the only 35-year-old having any sort of affairs or such at the time either. So I think we need a bit of objectivity here. And by the way, the 7 days in the week, if you're working full time and so on, how the hell are you going to keep 9 or 10 men going at the same time? This is rubbish, like, you know.
I was just going to say, and you just touched on that point. When you read a comment, a nonsense comment, by Morgan like that, when you start being very specific.
Sorry, it wasn't Morgan, it was the other guy. Mick Morgan just responded with a question. Yeah, it was PMC.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, but when people start making claims as someone's in a relationship with, and naming specifically 9 or 10 men, and most of them were all married, and you have spoken to all those men, and you know that they're all married, that raises a red flag usually. When you start providing that amount of detail, we know you're talking bollocks and you know absolutely nothing about this case, and you're simply creating mischief in comments, and that came across very clearly.
Yeah, because this is nonsense, and this is in the ballpark of victim blaming here. There was other comments there, like, as well, about stuff like that, like, and it's this isn't acceptable. Like, it's like, there was another comment then as well about getting involved with people or whatever. Like, it's almost like saying she crapped on her own doorstep, but she didn't. Like, it's like, it's all wrong. It's this victim blaming mentality. Like, this woman did not deserve what happened to her. Like, and she was well loved by her family, friends, etc., and even the people that she had flings with. She was on good terms with them as well. Like, so you've got to remember all that. Like, and we, remember the victim and remember the family and so on there. Like, and again, we hope Claudia Lawrence's family get answers there, like, as well, and we don't need these kind of comments on the channel. Mick, anything else on that?
No, we've said enough.
Yeah, okay. Now, we have one on Mary Kilmartin there, who we just mentioned earlier. So there was one from Nancy there, good point here, where the clothes Mary was found in, the clothes she wore to the party. And Mick, you're going to check that one up there.
Yeah, I still have to check that out with Anya. If I know Anya does follow the channel, and if she's viewing this and she wants to follow up on that and make a comment, if not, I'll get hold of Anya and I'll ask her, because I think it's actually it's a relevant point. I can't be certain. My instinct is they wear the clothes that she had on that day, but I don't want to go further than being absolute on that, but I believe they were. In other words, she didn't kind of like go home, have a complete change of clothes, and was found at the deposit site wearing completely different clothes. That's my understanding, but I will clarify that with Anya. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, understood, Mick. Now, I just want to address some comments here now as well, and we had a few complaints here now about, in particular in relation to the Joyce Quinn video there, and we had a few complaints there about the Irish language aspect. Now, that came from TJ Carr, the Irish Language Channel documentary, some of the clips that are in there, and I think it's I'm not going to read out these comments, but there was various complaints about Gaelic and language and so on, instead of, they don't find, well, it's we call it Irish here, even Gaelic would be more correct, but like I mean, I know Irish isn't cool for many people, but most people can manage with the subtitles, and they're interested in the cases and deserve to seek justice for the victims, such as Joyce Quinn and their families. That trumps any disdain you might have or frustration you might have with the Irish language by a long way. So you can look through that, like, if you're interested enough in the case. One person saying they give it a miss and so on. So I think that's pretty shallow, some of that stuff. We always appreciate honesty and honest feedback and constructive criticism at Radio Espial, which that is not. So if you've nothing constructive to say, to paraphrase someone, if you've nothing constructive to say nothing at all. And thanks to those with their engagement. And there was one nice comment there where the person said, if this was in French or French or Spanish, like, would you ask about that? Yeah. It was actually Carol Jean Griffith said, "What an odd comment. to one of them, would you ask that if it was set in any other country? And so thanks for that, Carol Jean. So that was that was a good response there. Mick, I know you want to say a bit about this now.
Yeah, this is something that has only started as the channel numbers have risen, and it's very notable in about the last 4 months. I'm starting to see more comments like this. We have always reflected snippets, chunks from Irish, Gaelic, Irish speaking documentary channels, TG4 notably, who have done extraordinary work to feature missing and murdered people. And it's only in the last 3 or 4 months I've noticed this cropping up more, which baffles me because it didn't come up before. And extraordinarily, when we covered one of the cases in our anniversaries, Sophie Toscan, I didn't hear anybody complaining about the fact that every time her family spoke in French in that documentary, that feature we put out, I didn't notice anybody complaining under the comments. So it leads me to think there's other motives going on here. Look, if you don't like the Irish language or hearing the Irish language, that's your problem. It's not our fucking problem. Go somewhere else. That's part of our culture. We reflect that. We don't make it difficult for you. We provide subtitles. If you've got a problem with that, you can't read subtitles. Notwithstanding, you wouldn't have a problem in any other, whether it's French or a Spanish documentary, you wouldn't complain about it. What is it that's pushing your little buttons when it comes to Gaelic, the Irish language? Yeah, I think we kind of cop what's really going on here, and it has fuck all to do with whether it's, what the case is about. If you're not focused on the case and the victims and what's happening, and you're not fully supportive of the channel, go somewhere else. Take your baggage and your nationalism or whatever concern or baggage you have in life, your political baggage, and go somewhere else. Don't empty it here. Go somewhere else.
Thanks, folks. Thanks all for your engagement and comments. And please, folks, keep it respectful. Think of the victims and the families. And, just be respectful, please. As I said, we welcome honest feedback and be blunt. Because feedback helps us to improve.
We're not shy of constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism, please, before coming with that. But be respectful and respect the victims and families in these cases, which are absolutely horrendous for them to start with. Okay, that's all mixed up.
To tie back in to our 4 cases, 4 families, 4 experiences, it struck me listening to those cases, there was a theme that ran through every single one. What Frank spoke about, what Oliver spoke about, Luke's mother spoke about as well. And it was, after the first few weeks, the village whispers, people coming back to you and saying, what's going on with the car? Have they found him yet? Have they? And the whispers and the rumours going on, and police having to deal with nonsense, obsessive people about a case. And we get it now in comments. We get it privately with people communicating with us, from psychics to obsessives contacting us claiming they have exclusive information. We're able to weed some of that nonsense out very quickly because people underestimate what we know about a case and who we're in contact, families Gardaí about a case, and people underestimate that, and we consistently get that. And that was a team that ran through those 4 testimonies from those 4 families, the nonsense that goes on when their loved ones go missing, and they're dealing with that, and then they have to start putting up with crap, whispers, opinions, speculation, and trying to fight that as well. And it takes up time in an investigation, and that was a common theme that ran through Wednesday's event at Croke Park for Missing Persons Ireland. Listen, thank you for joining us on Radio Espial Insider edition. This month is actually the 10th year of Radio Espial for true crime in our current format. The channel did exist before that, but not as Radio Espial for true crime. As the year draws to a close, our subscribers now are over 7,000. Will have noticed that we have moved from weekly content, and this is a reflection of the work we do and how we do it. We are not here to compete with other true crime channels churning out daily and weekly content just for the sake of it. We publish and release Irish and international cases, be they the full timelines or features, insider editions, when we are ready and feel we have done our homework and research. We do not bow at the altar of YouTube's algorithms, and unfortunately in recent times we're starting to be hit by that, because we're not churning something out literally every week. Still pushing and deciding when and if Radio Espial content should be highlighted by YouTube because it suits them and their advertisers. That's not how we work here. Now, we will have one more full timeline for you before Christmas. That's likely to be the Monica Reardon case, and simply because that is the one closest to being ready for recording and broadcast. Now, beyond that, we don't have any full scale production broadcast schedule. We'll be working to that over the Christmas. Brian and I will work out what our schedule is. I'll leave him if he wants to tell you what he's working on at the moment. We don't tend to, as it were, leak too much, because we feel if we do, then we're kind of on a hook, and then you expect it and then we don't deliver, and sometimes something that we think we can deliver in 2 or 3 weeks suddenly turns into 6 or 8 weeks, and I found that an awful lot this year.
Yeah. So I think we'll give an update when we're more...
Yeah, when we're more sure where our schedule is for 2026. So look, we're going to do our best to get you one more timeline before Christmas, and I'm going to be very straight and honest. It's likely you're not going to hear from us until after Christmas. Probably we'll do an insider edition, but you never know, something might come up. We've also got something that came out of the Missing Ireland regarding cadaver dogs that we might do a short, maybe 20-minute feature, which might be interesting. We might do that before Christmas along with our timeline. That's probably going to be it for us coming up to Christmas. So look, you will hear from us again before Christmas. Until then, God bless and take care. Brian?
Thanks, folks. Thanks for your support, and take care, and all the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.